From the Dead Workers Party, a podcast about gaming featuring the people that bring your games to life. These are your core elements.
Core Elements, episode 49, recorded on August 20th, 2011. 2011?
Is that what it says?
No, that's what I said. Why did I say 2011?
Probably for the same reason I said October last week.
2013. There we go.
I'm Wes Wilson.
I'm Spencer Williams, and with us is Joe Mirabello from Blank Slate. But what is going on here? Blank Slate Joe.
Yes.
Of Terrible Posture Games. I'm sorry. I'm
That's all right.
Hi, Joe.
How's it going? The Blank Slate Joe is my Twitter handle, so people can follow me at Blank Slate Joe.
Oh, getting the pimpage in early.
Yep.
Now, Joe is working. I started to say Blank Slate Joe just because that's where we were. Joe, you're working on a game right now called Tower of Guns.
Yep. It is. Well, do you want me to go into the spiel, or do you want to do?
Sure. Tell us about your game.
Sure. It's a first-person shooter, roguelike-ish kind of thing. Lots of random levels, random enemies, random items, loot, all sorts of things like that. It's a short, lunch break experience. So if you're going to win, you're going to do it over your lunch break, but it's very hard, so you will have to try many times. So all the random elements keep it replayable. Kind of like Binding of Isaac mixed with Doom 2 or Quake. Lots of old-school first-person shooter mechanics. But still in development.
Doom 2 or Quake?
It's probably a little bit more Quake because it is 3D. It's not 2.5D.
Now, would you say it's more Quake than Unreal?
That's a good question.
Or is it more Unreal than Quake?
It is in the Unreal Engine, so inherently it's going to feel more Unreal-y to some people. However, people who are big Quake fans and haven't played Quake in a long time say it does feel familiar to them. They feel like they're playing back when they were in their Quake heyday.
That's kind of the feel I got. I got kind of a Quake feel, especially with the sound effects. I was like, hey, that sounds kind of, yeah.
I tried to evoke as much little things like that. There's I tried to pull as much as possible from Quake and Doom's iconic stuff. There's the stat menu at the end of the screen that I have come up just like Doom's stat menus at the end of the levels. And even some of the texture work, I was thinking back to some of my favorite Doom 2 textures, being can I do something similar to that with my crazy style? It's been fun to work on.
And you originally started off in art, correct?
Yeah, I'd been an artist in the AAA industry for 8 years now. I worked on Titan Quest, and I worked on a couple of indie games on the side, and then I worked on a big MMO with 38 Studios. And then that company completely went out of business. So it was 5 years of my life working on that studio is shut up in a box somewhere and no one will ever see it. So. And
I think that's probably the worst thing about it. Do you ever ponder digging some of that art out and trying to get a hold of some of those assets again?
Well, it's not like I could show it off publicly. It's not like I could really do anything with it other than be that was fun to make. We had a very cool look in that game, and it's a shame that people won't get to see it. But if anything, it actually has kind of made me feel more driven towards making this indie thing work, because that studio closed down. I was like, well, if I'm going to work for a company that's going to close, I can do that good.
Yeah. Well, and that's something. Was the style for the MMO going to be a lot like the game that did come out that Big Huge did?
The Big Huge game? No, the lore and the story were all very similar. There was a lot of shared history and stuff, obviously, because they put Salvatore and the writing team on both. But aesthetically, we were working long before, and they were working on their game back when they were Big Huge proper, and then when they were bought by THQ, they were still working on that game, and so they kind of had a style already entrenched. So the style of the MMO was way more painterly, way more Disney. You can actually see some trailers of it online. If you YouTube it, you can see some cool fancy gameplay and environment trailers of the game that will never be.
Yes. Now with Tower of Guns, a lot of people have you like looked back from going into the indie environment and kind of regretted anything? This is a question I'm always curious about. I haven't met anybody who's regretted it yet, but I feel like somebody out there has to go, this was a terrible idea.
Yeah, somebody's out there going to say, man, indie is just bold.
Well, I regret not having coworkers, because having coworkers was fun.
Yeah.
Being able to like leave the house every day. I mean, it's nice to be able to work from home, but you're like, well, I haven't seen anybody in 3 days other than my wife. So I feel like my social skills are kind of deteriorating.
Yes.
I was thinking that.
Yeah, and I have been doing a lot of web design and stuff from the house as well, and then the kids were home for the summer, so like by the end of the summer, I pretty much just felt like my ass and my chair were too good of friends.
That is the indie feeling right there. If you want to know what being independent feels like, it's that. You feel one with your chair.
So like now you were in the Indiecade, correct?
Yeah, the Indiecade E3 showcase. The Indiecade festival itself has a completely different criteria, and I don't know if I'm in that yet or not. But they picked out, from all other applications, they picked out like 20 or 30 ones that they already knew they liked well enough to show off, and and Tower Guns was one of those.
Nice.
So it was a free ticket to E3. Well, not the plane ticket, but a free pass into E3, and I got to show off the game on the floor and meet a lot of people, and got a lot of people to try it out. So it was really neat to see some kind of first impressions.
And who threw the best party this year?
My old coworkers, because a lot of the old 38 Studios people were out there. They all moved back out to California. Like, a lot of them had come out here for work and then moved right back out there when the studio closed, and a bunch of us met up. So not a public party, but that was fun.
Well, that's a shame.
That's a terrible answer to that question. A party you weren't invited to.
No, but that's just it. Like next year I'll go, hey man, you should invite me to that party. That good one. So
well, there was a lot of history there, so it was you knew everyone there, and
yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, we didn't get to go to E3 this year. We went year before last. I want to go again just because like I made a lot of really great connections, but I never met, like, meeting people on the floor was one thing, and it was very professional and very, very dry. But if you could meet up with somebody like after hours at a party and sit there and talk about what they were doing, over a drink, it was a really, really great experience. So,
well, it's like all the conferences kind of have that appeal to them a little bit. I like probably GDC the most because you're with other, not just press. There's a lot of press at E3, but you're also with other, a lot more just developers at GDC. So you could run into a lot more artists and programmers and stuff.
Yes.
I've always figured GDC would be more fun for developers than E3.
Yeah.
I mean,
the panels
E3
are
is
awesome.
Essentially, it's a big advertisement, right?
It is, and it's awesome, but it doesn't have like the same kind of like, you don't really feel like you're learning. Whereas at GDC, you could be like, wow, I picked up a dozen new tricks I can't wait to try. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, we'll talk more.
I can't, shut up, Wes. I can't wait to talk about your game whose name I have just forgotten. But I really can't. I actually, as soon as I heard about it and I heard that there was a green light for it, it was like the first, I hadn't looked at green light for a while. I was like, okay, this looks awesome. I'm going to green. Click. But we will talk about that more in just a bit. But first,
man, you're off today, Spencer.
I'm off my game.
I know. I don't know what's going on with you.
Lab notes.
So I really haven't been doing much gaming this week. I wish I could say I have. I did poke some more into Fez and on Steam, and I have to say that game is a lot deeper than I really was expecting it to be. Like, the individual levels have a lot of complexity to them, and I can see now why it took so long for him to make that game. And I'm only like in like the third world or something like that, but I keep going through doors and I'm like, wow, wait, where am I now? And I'm enjoying it. It's got a really neat feel to it. That's probably the game I'm going to dig into a little bit more in the future. More than that, though, I've been playing Smite, and more Smite. It is my go-to game for, hey, I'm a little tired, I want to wake up, and you can play a quick Smite arena or something like that pretty fast. They've been coming out with new content. They've been working on the art style. My friends are playing. And I have not had this much fun doing PvP stuff in a long time. I enjoy the variety of characters. The community is not as virulent as, or vitreous.
Virulent.
Vitrolic. That's the word I'm looking for.
It's not as strong like bull.
It's not as
time. It'll get there.
Yeah, it's not as vitrolic as some of the other MOBA communities. I did, however, decide to pick up a god I hadn't played in a while, and I was totally sucking, and people were telling me to uninstall, and it was humiliating, and I cried.
I thought that one was supposed to be a little bit more friendly to people who didn't know all the recipes and stuff.
It is. It's actually very friendly for it. That's why I comment on it. I had one game in the last week where someone said to me, please uninstall. One.
Do you know, not playing that game, how many times that's been said to me? 0.
Well, I know, but you're also not doing heavy PvP stuff.
Yeah, even in games where I have done like heavy PvP, maybe I don't know. Like I feel like in a shooter, people don't have as much time to type nonsense. And I guess, obviously I could go and talk about Xbox kids and the awful, what's the word you use? Virulent strain.
I think virulent is not the right word.
No. Virile.
Yeah, no, stop. Well, that's just it. Like I used to get insulted when I played Warcraft PvP. Pretty much
That's just sad.
Any team-based PvP game where you start screwing up, they're going to blame you for the failures of the team. It's just the way of the world. And MOBAs in particular are extremely hostile. I have the popularity of Dota 2 has been urging me to maybe pick it up and touch it, but then I remember the social experiences I had in that MOBA, and I don't want to touch it again. I might pick it up again, but I don't know. But I'm having a ball with Smite, and I love it, and I can't wait for it to get out of beta and have and see more people playing it. The one thing I'm confused by is, it's already got ads out. You can already see ads on web pages.
Yeah, is it closed beta though?
No.
Can anybody not opt into the beta?
It's open beta.
Huh.
But it's one of these things that, like, it's already got ads. They're already selling stuff. I keep telling myself it'll be awesome when it goes live. It's going to get so and then I go, how could they make it different than it is now if it's live?
I'm willing to bet that they just slapped the name beta on it so that it had excuse when people felt things were overpowered or imbalanced. And you'd be like, well, it's still beta. We'll fix that.
Yeah.
So, because you can't really test those games nearly as much in a studio as you can when you put it in front of 3 million people. They'll find rogues fast.
Yep.
I just feel like, I keep hearing people say things like, oh, you should play MOBAs because they're fun. I'm like, autoerotic asphyxiation is probably fun too, but there's just side effects of it that I'm not interested in. That's not that, that's how I feel.
There is something about the experience when you get this. Victor was telling me about how much fun he had playing Final Fantasy X. And he said there is something about being on a team where nobody can mess up and having everybody pull off what they're supposed to pull off. And
Final Fantasy 13.
Was it 13?
No, 11.
11? Okay.
Yep. 10 was like PlayStation only. Like,
was it?
PlayStation
a long time
2.
ago.
Okay. Well, I didn't play any of those in there. I went from 7 to like 12. Anyway, so... and I feel like that, like when we're playing Smite together and it's working and we're winning, I want to jump up and cheer. Like it's that much positive energy.
You have like that synergy.
Yeah. And especially when you're standing there and it looks like something bad's going to happen, and then you rally and it's like, yeah. And it's team sports and it's awesome.
Yeah, I used to get that feeling when I was playing TF2. I haven't played TF2 in a while, but when you had a good team and you guys were all like firing on all cylinders, you felt like a team.
Yeah, agreed. Spencer's staring at the screen.
That's how I felt about a lot of first-person shooters. That, especially when I was playing Unreal Tournament real heavily, I'm no longer even interested in looking for that. I don't know.
You got
what
your
happened.
Team satisfaction all burned out. What Unreals were you playing?
I started with Unreal Tournament, and I went all the way through what was, I think, 2006, or I don't remember. 2000, I don't remember. they all sort of started 2004. It was 2004 because 2003 was fun, but they just called it a stop. It was sort of a stopgap, and then 2004 was really good, and I kind of lost. Like UT3 was kind of eh.
I think that's when a lot of the community seemed to drop away. It was with UT3, but I don't know. The engine has come so far since UT3. I'd be surprised if you didn't see a revival in that with whatever, if they decided to, I don't know, make the UT4. No, the engine's a lot more mature now.
I loved. Unreal was one of my the original Unreal was like one of my favorite games ever. And then when Unreal Tournament came out, it was like but for some reason the competition on first person shooters got so deadly that I just felt completely inadequate. And it's also probably, my reflexes are a little slower as I get older. My eyesight's a little worse. I can't keep up with the cool kids.
Well, I was on dial-up all the time, so I never could play anything because all the college kids with their fancy college LANs were thrashing me.
We used to do that. We used to throw LAN parties, and then one weekend, I threw a big giant LAN party at my house, and the air conditioning unit went out on Friday night, and so we had like 20 computers in the house, and so we built a swamp cooler. We went and bought 10-pound bags of ice and got a fan and put it in a big baby pool.
Yeah, we actually did one in a garage once and poached power from the next door neighbors.
Nice. So, what have you been playing, Spencer?
Let's see, what have I been playing? First off, you remember about 2 months ago I mentioned that I was close to finishing Persona 3? Mm-hmm. Well, I lost interest. No, I didn't lose interest. That's the wrong thing to say. I have been playing it since 2006 or 2007 when it came out, and I just didn't want to finish it because I didn't want it to be over. And then I started feeling guilty, so I put the last few hours into it and I finished it. And I didn't cry. It was emotional. No, it was. It was super. It was like it was a game I've been playing so long for no reason for me to have been playing it that long. None whatsoever. I should have been done with it long ago. And I finally finished it, and I figure I'll wait a couple weeks before starting my next 6-year playthrough. And then I was like, okay, well, I finished that one. I guess I can finally play Persona 4. So I started playing Persona 4 Golden, and haven't gotten far enough to say much about it other than it's really awesome style. It's cool. Yeah.
Okay.
TV murdering. Yeah. So yeah, that's the bulk of what I've been playing, because lately, if it's not on a handheld and I can't lay in bed for the last 30 minutes before I fall asleep and play it, I'm not playing anything at all. But I have managed to fit in a couple other things. First off, Gone Home.
Oh, you got it.
I've heard good things about that.
We talked about it briefly last week, and it has since come out, and I have started playing it. And do you know anything about it, Wes?
I know absolutely nothing about it.
Joe, do you know anything about it?
I've seen the trailer, and I've seen a couple of gameplay footage, videos, but not much. Not enough to spoil anything.
This isn't spoiling anything to sort of lay down the concept. It is, you are a woman that is returning home from a year-long trip abroad, and strange things have occurred in the meantime, and you are just exploring this house and
right. It's like a
clues.
first-person exploration game.
Yeah, and it scares the crap out of me.
Awesome. I want to play now.
Nothing scary has happened.
Yeah.
All that happened,
moody, right?
This is when I had to stop playing it. Like, it's raining outside, so there's like, constantly going in the background. And I'm in this creepy library, and I find this note that says, yeah, when we sold the house, the electrical system's kind of weird. The lights just turn off by themselves sometimes. But the homeowner says he doesn't want to do anything about it because the wiring is going to be really complicated, and it's not really a dangerous problem. As soon as I heard the lights can turn off at any time, I'm like, no, I'm not playing anymore. I'm done. Because every time I walk into a room, I've been like, okay, where's the light switch? This room is so creepy. I got to find the light switch. And then I turn on the lights. I'm like, oh, it's not so bad. Look, there's just books everywhere. It's not that bad. But as soon as I found out, no, the lights can go off, I don't even know if it actually happens in the game. But I don't know.
You're like, that's the end of it? You're done?
I am going to play more of it. But at the time, I was like, oh.
So no Machine for Pigs for you when that comes out?
Oh, no.
I still haven't finished the first Amnesia because it does it for me too much.
Exactly.
I enjoyed the first Amnesia, except for the water levels.
That was awesome. I thought it was. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Brilliant.
I thought the game was amazing, but I can't finish it.
I can't. Well, and that's just it. Like, I loved the water levels, the idea of them, but actually completing them was too annoying. And I got to the second water level, and it made me so mad, and I was done.
Really?
I don't enjoy a scary game the same way I don't enjoy being filled with scorpions.
See, I love scary games, but in the last year, my gameplay time has shifted to like 11 o'clock, and I guess maybe it's just I'm getting older, but if I play a scary game right before I go to sleep, I don't sleep.
Yeah.
Like, so I would.
I'm not going to admit, since I started getting older, I pee a little.
But like, when I was younger, I would play a game and I could play right up until the second I was going to sleep. It could be a scary game, and I had no problem falling asleep. It just didn't do anything. But now it gets my heart rate going.
I've been trying to think of a genuinely scary game that I have ever finished, and really the only one I can come up with is the first Resident Evil was terrifying.
That was pretty scary.
Before those things were tropes.
Right, the dog through the window.
Dog through the window, yeah.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2
was pretty scary.
Resident Evil 2 was one of the scariest games I've ever played in my life. Me and a friend of mine named Shaylee played that, and like we sat really close to the TV and we turned off all the lights, and there were parts in time where we both screamed and dropped the controller.
I do have fond memories of sitting behind someone who is playing Resident Evil and going, oh. And it would just freak the crap out of them. So, but no, that's the only scary game I can think I've ever finished. Like every other game, I'm just like, nope.
That Call of Cthulhu game. That's probably the scariest game that I finished, and that I thought was great.
Yeah, I felt really bad about that one because a viewer gave me that game specifically so I would play it and stream it while I played it. And I got, there's that big long part at the beginning where you're just walking around and talking to people. Right.
It's so atmospheric. You don't have a gun for like the first half of the game, and it's pretty scary.
And I was just like, it just, no.
Well, how long ago was that?
I don't know, like a couple years.
I bet you if you look back at it now, I tried to play it again recently, and I was like, wow, everybody looks like Minecraft people because they're so low poly. And it's a lot less scary if you look at it like, there's
old Clive Barker game, not the newer one that came out.
Oh, I love that.
Not Jericho. You're talking about Jericho is the newer one.
It was
Jericho's
like
the newer
Unforgiven, or it was like
Undying, maybe?
Undying.
Clive Barker was Undying. I tried to play that last year, and you want to talk about a game that looks terrible? And it still scares me to death.
I loved that game when it came out, but it was one of these things. I feel like Clive Barker and Stephen King both are really good at creating some individual scary situations, but then like when they try to build the plot around the really scary elements, it just flies off in a direction that I can't follow. And like all Clive Barker's books, by the end of it, I just was like, God, blah, and I would throw it on the table.
Well, all you have to do in a video game to make me never able to play it is have constant rain and thunder. And then I can't play it. I think it's because I've had a nervous dog for so long that when I hear thunder, I just, dog. But anyway, we've been talking about this way too long. The
Yes.
last thing I've been playing, and it just came out last night at midnight my time, was Saints Row 4, and I've been looking forward to it for a long time, and it's going to be ridiculous nonsense, and I'm going to eat it up like the terrible, terrible for me gelatin product made of horse hooves that it is. I know.
And I still have not beaten Saints Row 3 because I started playing it with Eric and I haven't gotten him to play with me again.
Just solo that.
I'm gonna give it up
I had
because
it on Steam and I haven't been able to even install it yet. Like I've owned it for forever, Saints Row 3.
yeah, it's ludicrous and it's awesome and it's bombastic
It
stupidity.
was my game of the year for 2011.
Oh yeah, it
Which
seems
must
like
be why
it
it's
was a
at
lot
2011.
It seemed awesome.
I really want to play it and I really want to finish it, but I kind of wanted to do it as a multiplayer experience. And
No,
don't. Okay,
just play it.
you've told me.
Especially Eric. Come on, man.
So what about you, Joe? What have you been playing lately?
I'm in a similar boat to Spencer, where I play most of my games in the last like 20 minutes before I go to sleep, like handheld style. So I'm playing through some DS online game called Zenonia, or not online, but DS Nintendo eyewear store, whatever the heck Nintendo's e-store is called. There's a game called Zenonia that I'm playing now, an RPG, which is pretty
It started
impressive.
out as. Go ahead.
It started out as a phone game, I think.
Yeah, it was an iPhone game.
Yeah, I think you're maybe right, because it feels like an iPhone game. The port is a little bit janky, but it actually it's surprisingly in depth for a little mobile game. And on the DS, it's a good fit for it. Despite the fact that they don't do very much with the touchscreen at all. Like they don't do anything with it. And then I just finished playing through Infinite. Like if I do 8 hours of work in a day, then I let myself play some real games, and it took me about 7 months to finish Infinite.
Oh my God.
So yeah, a long time. I don't have very many.
What
full
did you
hours.
think of it?
I thought that I liked the story in the first BioShock a lot better. I thought that the gameplay was cool. I thought it looked very neat. I thought it was a pretty decent experience. There were some neat, like the little surprises I thought were cool. They were fun. But then when I thought about them, like I'm trying not to say anything spoilery for people,
Yeah.
for anyone who hasn't played it. But when I thought back about the story, I was like, I don't actually think I like this world anymore because of the story.
And that's kind of the experience I had. It really was an amazing experience for me. I loved it. I loved that I went back and thought about it afterwards. I thought there was some amazing storytelling elements inherent in everything that was laid out. But
Storytelling was fun. The telling of the story was really well done.
But if you go back and like pay attention to the details, you're suddenly like, wait a minute, what? And if you are stupid enough to go to like a forum where people are actually like actually being super critical of the story, after a while you'll be like, damn it, you ruined it.
Yeah, I thought it was terrible when I was playing it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I finished it just so I could uninstall it. Like
Well-
I had no fun with it whatsoever.
I had a lot of fun with the combat. I had a
very
lot.
small fun.
I don't know. I thought that the world was kind of neat to run around in. I liked the world and I liked the art and I loved the telling of the story. But yeah, like what Wes was saying, it's you think about it too much and it starts to hurt your brain a little bit. And not because you start feeling like you're having revelations. It's like you start realizing the contradictions. It's not like, oh, my brain hurts because you just, you totally just brain fucked my brain. Wait,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all
Oh
right.
my god, you mean I was totally the person that was shooting at myself the whole time? Oh my god. Sorry.
Right. It's not like that kind of brain hurt. It's more like that doesn't quite line up.
Yeah. And that's just it. But at the same time, like everything else about it is amazing. I really I thought about buying some of the DLC. I thought that exploring the world and things might provide a little more joy from that, but I haven't really felt compelled to do that yet. I got the Dragonborn DLC for Skyrim with one of the latest Steam sales, and I think that's going to be like the DLC that I pick up.
I've been looking forward to that one, just because Morrowind is like one of my favorite games ever, and going back to Morrowind and Dragonborn would be a lot of cool.
Yeah.
Would be very cool. Except for that, my character in Skyrim that I really like, it's like I've played so much on one character now that the frame rate is terrible and the loading times are terrible. Like, it gets worse and worse the longer your character is alive. At least for me. So now, if I play Skyrim, it takes like 8 minutes to load into the world, and then the frame rate is like 10 frames per second.
That's why I can't play Civ 5. I can't stand spending more time waiting for the next turn than I do playing my turn.
It seems like Civ 5 should have some kind of I don't know, like latent mode. Like, you can just put it into like an alt-tab screen and come back later, like an idle kind of.
Well, and that's one thing that always made me mad about Civ. Like, especially like I think it was Civ 2 or Civ 3. I can't remember which one it was, but the one where you would sit there and you would take your turn and then you would watch units walk back and forth on your borders for like 5 minutes. You know, the same unit would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And you'd be like, couldn't you have done this like in some kind of side process? And it makes me wonder, like, if I were working on Civ 5, what I would do is I would make it so that while the player was taking his turn, the computer was thinking about what it's going to do. And then it would be instantaneous turn stuff. There you go. That's
you
my
should make
input.
Civ. You have solved the problem.
Well, they probably could do that without it needing to think. Like, thinking up the next thing to do is probably a fraction of the time there. Most of it's probably just finishing the animations.
And, and I would rather them not animate and let me take my next turn.
Well, it seems like they should be like a toggle you could turn on. That's just like, like in Advance Wars or something, you can turn off animations.
Yeah.
And just become snappy.
Agreed. So anything else you've been playing?
What else have I been playing? That's pretty much it. I jump into Don't Starve every once in a while, and back when that was in beta, and checked out the latest updates. But I haven't even played that in a while. It's been mostly heads down on Towers of Gun, actually. Tower of Guns.
See? He got it wrong, too. Don't feel
Hard to
bad,
say.
Spencer.
Eureka! Ow!
Let's talk about some of our sponsors. First off, if you are interested, go and get a 30-day free trial of Netflix. It is, you can go to netflix.com/deadworkersparty, and you can sign up for a free 30-day trial. You'll help the podcast. You'll help us. And you'll get 30 days free of Netflix. And they are increasing the area that a lot of these things are being able to be seen in. I've been watching Orange is the New Black. I've been enjoying it. I've also been kind of dabbling in some old Breaking Bad episodes. And I want to pick up Continuum. So that's kind of where I am. Additionally, you can go to Audible and get a free download book. And that is audibletrial.com/core elements. And you can get a free audiobook. And then if you decide to subscribe, you get a free one every month. And you get 30% off each additional purchase. And again, you will be helping the show. So go check those out and help the show. Yeah.
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 Yeah?
I'm just off my linguistic game today. Like I'm repeating things a lot. I think it's because I worked out today. I think my brain's messed
You should
up.
never work out. That's where you went wrong.
So I only really have one news story here, and the reason I kind of wanted to talk about it is just because I think it's really awesome that this kind of stuff is going on again. TellTale is working on a successor to the popularity of their Walking Dead game, and it is called The Wolf Among Us, and it is actually based on a really fantastic comic book called Fables, and it's about the main character who is the big bad wolf, and I love that this whole adventure game thing is taking off again. This stuff pleases me. I really enjoyed playing through The Walking Dead. I thought it was a really excellent experience. And I am looking forward to entering the world of Fables, and I think this type of gameplay will work really well for some of these more complex environments where storytelling is central to the experience. What do you think, Spencer? Did you play The Walking Dead?
I've played some of it. I think it's good.
But
I don't want it to be a genre-defining game, though. I don't think it's that good.
I'm just glad to see it's revived. It's convinced people that there's still money in that genre, so that they're still making.
You see,
stuff.
has it? Is there anyone other than them doing it? I mean, really?
Well, a lot of indies, but indies have, I guess, always been doing it.
Yeah.
Indies never really stopped.
well, I mean, and that's just it. I think though that like if they can consistently, I mean, right now it's a fluke. They rode the Walking Dead train into a bunch of money. If they can repeat this and get a lot of positive response from it, I think we'll see more people putting money into that genre. Right?
Well, we won't really even know what the effects of it were on the industry at large for another year. It's like that's when all the games that were inspired by that bag of money that they all saw, that's when they'll all come out. Will be
Right.
like next summer. Because, you give it 2 years of iteration if everyone starts jumping on the bandwagon. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little while before we see, as a consumer, before we see that popping up. Its
And then
influence.
the other thing is, I think that it's probably a I hate to say this, but I don't care for any of their other games at all, ever.
I have
None
not.
of the TellTale like remakes or reimaginings of old adventure games were good at all.
They got a roster now too, don't they? Of a lot
Yeah,
of
they
them.
did. They did Sam and Max, which was boring and awful and terrible, and then they did. What else did they do? They did.
They did Back to the Future. Yep, they did Back to the Future.
They did Back to the Future, which I have no experience with, so I can't say anything. And then they did the terrible poker games. It's just I have very little faith in them.
Ooh, that was them?
Yep,
Yeah.
that was Telltale.
Huh.
I had fun with it, and it was a good little stupid poker game as long as you liked all the characters that were involved.
Yeah, and hated poker.
Well, I mean, the only thing that I hate about playing computer poker is when they slow it down. And like that was one of the things I loved about Red Dead Redemption is they had these poker games set up, and they would do all the slow animations. So you could like play it like you were sitting there playing with real people, but you could also click a button and just skip to the part where you got your cards and skip to the part where you flopped and bam, 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 bam. And that's one of the things is like the experience with the TellTale poker. The experience was the characters, not the poker itself. And so the gameplay dragged out, and basically all you wanted was for the characters to respond to what was going on.
And they were terrible poker players as well.
I don't remember that. I didn't get deep enough to understand.
You don't remember them being awful and making terrible decisions at almost every point
No,
possible?
I don't remember
Oh my
that.
gosh. The only reason I started playing it literally by saying, okay, I'm just going to go all in every time because I might as well because they're going to anyway. So,
Did you win?
about half the time, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good then. That's a good strategy.
Well, regardless, I am very happy about what's going on. I think that they have learned a lot, and they have some good cash infusion from the Walking Dead game, and I would like to see what they can do. I thought everything about the Walking Dead game was expertly crafted, and I want to see them dig a little further into it. And I think this is an excellent opportunity and a great IP, and so that's why I brought it up. So you have something down here, Spencer?
Yes, I do. I thought this was kind of interesting, just for even when your competing product isn't very good, maybe competition is good. Maybe is that something I shouldn't say? Is that like anti?
I don't know.
Socialism or something like I don't know. But Origin, EA's largely terrible digital download service, is now delivering on. It's delivering. What's the word? Refunds.
Yes.
On games.
How does that work?
Well, this is something I was thinking about just the other day before it was announced. I went over to my great grandfather's, and he has a Kindle, and he's technologically literate, but he still makes mistakes. And I was going through his email just to make sure he wasn't getting spam and stuff like that. And I saw, did you did you buy this book on your Kindle? It looks like a romance novel. He's like, yeah, I did that by accident. And I'm like, well, I wonder if you can return it. And I went and clicked. It was an automatic process. It took me maybe 2 minutes, and he got a refund on that. And he immediately. And I was like, why can't I do this on Steam? Not that there's many times when I take advantage of it. There was one time when I tried to return something on Steam, and it was when I got actually Saints Row 2. I got it, and it did not. It ran at triple speed on my computer, and there was nothing I could do to fix it.
Nice.
And I was like,
feature.
it's an undocumented feature. So yeah, I was trying to just get rid of this game that I did not want because it did not work. And of course, Steam said no. So, you know.
See, I think it makes a lot of sense. I could see them doing something where it's like if it's been longer than a week, but if it's been, well, maybe even that's too long, but if it's been not enough time that you would have been able to beat it in that time, then it seems like refunds should be a no-brainer.
Yeah. And I think that's the way the Origin one works, is you have 7 days within the first time you run the game or something like that.
That makes sense too, because you could be sitting on something you got from a bundle for months before you ever install it.
Yeah. So I just think it's a fantastic thing, and hopefully Steam can see it and go, okay.
What I'm secretly hoping is that Origin will allow me to get refunds on everything I bought on there and give me Steam keys instead. That's what I want.
I think that's unlikely.
I think it is too. That's what I was hoping when you mentioned this story. I was like, really? That would make me happy. Because I noticed
things I own on Origin are things that I could not get on Steam. So
yes, well, and I noticed that they had the Origin Humble Bundle recently, and it's still going on as a matter of fact. And they'll offer Steam keys on a bunch of stuff. But
I think they offer Steam keys on everything which you can get on Steam.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that EA holds exclusive because that's why they have people on Origin, and just for those exclusivity titles.
But since they're giving away the games essentially, because Origin, I don't think that that Origin, like EA, is getting, like, you could do all charities. You don't have to give EA any money. You would think that they would at least try to leverage it towards some. They would give away Origin keys only in the Humble Bundle, but they didn't, and I actually was kind of surprised by that, and it made me purchase it. So.
Because that would be humble.
Really? You went there?
Well, it's called Humble.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
That might have been part of Humble's side of the bargain, with like, you need to give Steam keys to people because...
Well, I mean, that's the general Humble deal, is when they put a game up, it has to be downloadable on as many platforms as possible generally.
Right, yeah.
Well, and I think that there's a lot of... I bet it's in their contract as well, because they've got such a good deal going with Steam that they're like, okay, we would love to do this, but Steam has been very good to us, and we want to keep doing business with them. And if you have Steam keys for these products, we want those to be available to the people. So I don't know, but I was impressed. I thought that was pretty cool.
But what a damn shame I can't get the new SimCity on Steam.
That is one of the few purchases I regret. I had a lot of fun with it. I played it, but I feel I got ripped off by EA for SimCity.
Because of all of the problems at launch, or do you think you overpaid for it?
I two things. Number one, I don't feel the game was complete when they released it. I feel like they deliberately tried to hobble it in order to increase the DRM issues that are going on there. I don't feel like it is as solid of an experience as other SimCity games. My main complaint in all of the gameplay in SimCity is this: the cities are small. I go to build, I get to a certain point, and I need to get for my city to advance. I need a better building. But I have a finite number of these advanced buildings I can build. So I have to go and spend 8 to 12 hours building another city in order to get a building that will provide a a region benefit to my existing city.
Right, because they want you to have towns now.
Yes. So that is my main complaint. The other thing is I was like, okay, my wife and I are probably going to play this. I bought it right when we were having the baby. I figured it would be a good, I'm holding the baby sleeping in my arm, one hand game, you know? And so I went ahead and bought some additional DLC that was like different cities and things like that. And basically I paid an additional $20 for 8, I think, landmarks.
Okay.
And I feel like I got ripped off by that. I feel like that was I thought I was buying entire new city styles so that like I would get a French city. All the buildings would be themed French.
Oh, you thought you bought tile sets?
Yes, I did not. I did not know I bought 8 buildings for $20. So,
it was a terrible game.
now they are doing a patch on it. They're
good. Another one?
Yeah, they're actually starting to make some of the decisions that they made no longer as painful.
I'm sure that will make me reinstall it.
They're like making it so you can design raised roads and things like that. I mean, they're
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That'd be neat.
But I mean, the problem is that these are old school SimCity advances. It's like they took a huge step backwards and now they're making step forwards that they made 15 years ago in their game and saying, oh, look what we're doing now. And it's like, well, that should have been there at release. So,
can you build arcologies? Because if you can't build arcologies, then it's not a SimCity game in my mind.
I do not know.
The last SimCity game I played was 2000, and I think that was the coolest thing. You build an arcology, and then Godzilla comes and destroys it.
It's awesome, Godzilla.
Inspiration.
So, Joe, in the big battle between coding and art, which do you think you're better at? Well, like, what makes you feel more effective when you're doing it?
How much sleep I've gotten. I've been making art for a long time, and the art in Tower of Guns is purposefully simple. I mean, it's just me doing all of the art, design, coding, everything except for the music that my brother helps out with music. So I really have to kind of manage how much I overinvest myself. You know, I don't want to spread myself too thin. So like the art is so simply crafted that I can pretty much do it in my sleep. So I mean, on one hand, it's like I kind of know I could make something way more complex, way more elaborate. On the other hand, I'm like, I can make way more of this. And I can make a game like this with just me. So the art I'm probably much more competent with. Coding, this is the first time I've messed with Unreal Script. So after 38 closed, I spent a couple of months kind of familiarizing myself with the scripting language in Unreal and getting used to some of the quirks. So I'm pretty confident with it now. But it still is something that I haven't had, 9 years of professional experience doing.
And I mean, do you when you think about like how you were setting up Tower of Guns, like did you think about it first in an art style way, or did you think about it first in a gameplay way?
I did think about it first in an art style way, mostly because I was kind of just tinkering around with art styles at the same time as I was first tinkering around with the Unreal Script, like kind of like self enrichment course that I put myself through. And so I kind of had an art head start by the time I ever felt comfortable making anything final in Unreal Script. And so that kind of drove a lot of my decisions. Like art actually can have huge gameplay repercussions because it determines how big your hallways can be, how big your doors can be, what kind of pitch your ramps can be, which in turn can dictate how fast your player can move. So, it really was an art-centric game, and I probably would not do it that way in the future if I were to start from scratch. But it's worked out okay because the art, again, is so simplistic that if I found I got myself too much in trouble, I can backpedal and remake the art again in a week, so it's not a big issue.
Yeah. So, do you think, does it ever frustrate you when you're playing games as an artist? Like, do you notice the failures of art development in particular games? Like, do you ever play a game that has really great gameplay and you're just so disappointed in the art that you have to put it down?
Well, never that I put it down. You kind of get recalibrated. It's weird. I mean, if you look at, like, take Minecraft. When that first came out, me and the other and fellow artists were like, I don't get it. Why do people think this is interesting? And then it took reframing. Someone had to say, it's not like first-person shooter. It's Legos, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, we get it.
Yeah.
So I think you can adjust your aesthetic level to any tier. You just kind of need to immerse yourself enough in it. I mean, if you look at WoW, when WoW first came out, as an artist, I was running around and being like, there's texture stretching everywhere. There's textile density issues everywhere. There's crazy, like I was picking it apart. And then I was like, you know what, though? I played this thing for 13 hours straight. They must be doing something right. And I felt the mood of this zone I was in. So they're conveying their artistic vision well. So why am I being so critical of something that's well done? Even if the nuts and bolts, the little tiny things may be off here and there, the big picture's there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it takes a lot for me to not want to play a game because of aesthetics. Basically, it has to be too aesthetically impressive for it to run on my machine, and then I won't play it.
What have you seen? Like, what kind of games have you seen that really impressed you art style wise lately? That have resonated with you? Maybe not necessarily on their gameplay, but where you went, that is so stylistically pleasant.
Oh, like style wise?
Yeah.
Well, I have to divide myself into two camps here. There's like technically impressive, and then there's stylistically impressive. And like technically impressive, I look at the most recent stuff coming out of the Frostbite engine, the Battlefield 4 stuff, and I'm like, that's gorgeous looking. And then I'm like, but from a stylistic point of view, I'm like, I really love the look of Don't Starve. It's so cool. It's so simple, but it looks great.
Yeah. And I think it was a wise decision on their part. I mean, I know that I bit into it sight unseen because it had that series of unfortunate events style, Tim Burton-y kind of.
Right. It's like Tim Burton wood cutout kind of style.
Yeah.
It's very. It was something I hadn't seen before, and it was something that fit the game. It fit They wrapped the entire game, all the sound, the gameplay, the lore, all wrapped around that visual aesthetic, and that's something that a AAA game. They wouldn't have done that. Now they might. I think they're starting to find that AAA games are starting to kind of open up their I don't know what they'll risk. They're like starting to risk themselves with crazier styles. But back when I was first getting into the industry, like no AAA studio would touch anything that didn't look realistic.
Yeah.
And I guess Team Fortress 2 blew that out of the water. So we were like, whoa, people will buy games that don't look real.
Well, and then you see things like Borderlands and Borderlands 2, where there's like realism, but with a cool artistic twist on it.
Yeah, Borderlands is like, oh man, that's not the first game to do that art style either, but they do it so well. Like a lot of people think Tower of Guns looks similar to Borderlands because I do a similar line work in my textures.
I can see that.
I don't think it looks nearly as good because Borderlands 2 has some amazing artists working on it. Like that's the style done really well. But like I don't know, even Afro Samurai did that same art style back on the GameCube. It's been around for a while. That kind of like
played that one.
It's worth looking at for the art style.
Wait, which game was that? I didn't catch that.
The Afro Samurai game on GameCube is basically Borderlands. The art style for Borderlands is very similar. Didn't have normal maps back then, but it's very similar approach to how they make the textures.
Oh, cool.
It's very cool looking.
So, we talked a little bit about you being with 38 Studios. Like, I'm sure that we've talked about it before, and we're not really interested in digging into the actual breakup or anything. But like, what did you take out of that experience that was positive? I mean, do you feel like you? I mean, I'm sure you hated losing 5 years of work, but do you feel like you brought anything out of that made you feel stronger or better? Well,
absolutely. I mean, the way I have to look at it now is that. And I think I might have kind of done this as a self-defense mechanism, but I kind of am like, okay, all of that 5 years, that was me incubating. Now I need to go do something. Because, I mean, I was learning a lot and making tons of connections and friends in the industry and picking up new tricks that I'd never messed with before. I realized I was a much more technical person than I was. Like, before I started working at 38, I didn't know that I was comfortable with technology to the same level I was when I came out at 38. Like, I mean, I did I wore a lot of hats there. I wasn't just an artist. I did a lot of technical art. I did a lot of lighting. I did a lot of coming up with pipelines. I was kind of doing a little bit of everything. I would kind of help set up a system, and then once the technology was in place, working very closely with the programs to set up a pipeline, then I'd find 4 or 5 artists and hand the system off to them, and then I move on to another system. So I was kind of like a prototyper. It was a really fun job, and it's like I got to touch almost every.
It was a
aspect.
fun job because you didn't have to worry when things were broken.
Well, no, actually, I did to the point where eventually they had to hire somebody to take the load off of me having to go help out people when they're running into tech problems on the art side. So we hired an actual tech artist, and then I was like, okay, I don't need to be the tech artist anymore. And then they had to hire another tech artist to be the relief for that tech artist. And then they had to hire another tech artist to be there was a lot of technology
And
there.
pretty soon you've got a bunch of guys sitting around smoking cigarettes going, I'm not the tech artist.
It was a cool project, and there was some really neat technology that we were messing with, and I got to see it build itself from day one because I was there for 5 years. I really got to kind of go from like, here's the basic install of the engine. How do we take it from this to MMO? And it was functional, playable, and looked really cool by the time we closed doors.
Yeah. What do you think? And I've kind of discussed this a little bit before. Is there any? I mean, is the genre of the MMO just going to be the AAA studio thing? Do you think I mean, I know EverQuest Next has got a lot of press about it, but is it gonna be able to, like, are MMOs just too big to take on with any kind of moderation anymore?
Moderation, you mean in the amount of time investment?
Yes.
I don't think they need to be. I mean, I think they are right now because you get people in. You need to support the server costs, so you have to keep people involved as long as possible. But like, if you think about it, the idea of playing a game simultaneously with tens of thousands of people at once doesn't need to be, like, in the future, doesn't need to be a turn-based kind of slow thing that takes hours and hours. What if you actually had an actual Battlefield, like, Battlefield 12 is going to have probably thousands of people at once. That'll be crazy. That's an MMO right there.
Yeah.
Thousands of people crashing jets into each other all the time.
That's going to be amazing.
We have slightly different definitions of that word.
It might not be the most fun experience. But man, I'm going to put myself in spectator mode and just watch. I think that there's room for the MMO to branch out. Like, I think that, as much as you see people playing, like, just think about what you can do with 1,000 people in the room at the same time. There's a lot of room for the MMO to grow.
And I kind of, in the back of my head, I ponder, like, what it would take to make an MMO more accessible. Do you think there just needs to be like an MMO engine, like a Unity MMO kind of thing that like, do you think that could get smaller studios creating quality product that aren't
there are
gonna...
some of them out there. Like the Hero engine is kind of an MMO engine, and Big World, before they got bought by World of Tanks, that was an MMO engine. Like, World of Tanks was made in Big World, and then World of Tanks bought Big World. So that was kind of a funny little twist in the game industry. But yeah, I mean, maybe there needs to be something with a little bit more building block style approach to development. But I mean, you're talking specifically RPGs now, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm flexible. But at the same time, like, when I think about MMO, I usually think about quest based or event based stuff.
What do you think about things like RuneScape and MapleStory and kind of the things that were smaller originally and kind of grew into something bigger?
I have actually not played many of them.
I think that's probably, we're going to see like more of a gradation. What is the right word there? Gradation?
Oh, good. I'm not the only one failing at linguistics tonight.
I think it's turgid.
We're going to see more of a turgid. We'll see more of a gradient. There we go.
Gradient.
Between what's now like super low budget to AAA. I don't think there's going to be this stratification between like they're here, we're here.
Yeah.
It's going to be more of a soft like ramp from one to the other.
Yeah. Well, I also it seems to me a smart decision, for people to like cooperate on things like this. I really enjoyed DDO for a long time, and Spencer's going to sigh and go, "Oh, guys, talking about DDO."
I've long since tuned you out.
But like I felt like that was a game that provided an experience. Its servers didn't need to be huge. It had a niche market that enjoyed it and were willing to put money towards it. And I would like to see more MMOs come up like that, and I watched the 38 Studios thing. I've watched other, big MMOs just kind of, build up positive press and then crumble. And then, everything's got to be a WoW killer. Nothing.
Yeah, that's disappointing. I think as soon as people stop chasing the WoW pot of gold,
yeah,
I think maybe you'll see more of it. Okay, so take DDO. That was, I think the reason DDO played like that was probably because it was made by Turbine, who had already done the large open world MMO. They already had their technology in place. So like you were saying, they had an MMO engine ready to go. So they're like, what can we do pretty quick with this?
Yeah.
So I don't know how long of a development cycle it had, but I mean, they probably had become familiar enough with the rhetoric that they were able to branch off and do their own thing and know what they could borrow from.
Yeah.
And have it still be successful.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I
have one more question.
Okay.
Sure.
Why is Tower of Gun so freaking hard? I am serious. Like I can't play for longer than 5 minutes without being dead. Maybe I suck at it, but holy crap. It's like every third room has like 7 billion cannons that are shooting bombs at me that are also smart and tracking me down and firing lasers at me. And maybe I'm making this up, but you get my point.
You can blame the designer on that one.
He's kind of a masochist.
Well, the game is not a very long game. If I made it easy, you would win every time. It definitely needs a lot of balance tweaks still, because I mean it's not complete yet. It's only 42% done, but you can pre-order right now for $7.50 off of TowerGuns.com. But it's going to take a lot more tuning to get it refined, and it's not going to be the difficulty level is not going to be perfect for everyone. Like right now, I've got a YouTuber who can beat it every time. He can play on endless mode and get to like stage 26, which I didn't even think was possible. And he said that it's like, everything that hits you will one-shot you then, which means he's done it more than once probably.
Nice. I actually got to the the alpha end today. Yeah? Yes. I was pretty proud of myself. I'm like, excellent. Good, Wes. Good.
I did not.
Did you get out of the first level?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the first level was just little guys trying to hug me. Come on.
No, that's the first room.
Oh, well, then no. The answer is then no.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, it is. I want it to be a hard game, and I want it to be the kind of game that, you will be able to play a bunch of times. Even though you do die in the third room is going to be different every time you play, or
That's
a lot
true.
of times you
Something
play.
else will kill me every time.
That may be true. I'll probably tone down the difficulty of that first stage once I kind of know how hard the difficulty is going to get in the last stage. I can kind of like work backwards and kind of the whole thing's going to take balancing passes all the way through development. But I'm just surprised people have enjoyed it even in the state it's in now. I'm really happy just to see that people are like, this is fun, this is great. And some people are saying, I played this for 10 hours straight, and I don't know how, but I'm happy that it happened.
How many people are not going to enjoy a game in which you give them a butler? I mean, I have to say that the sense of humor in it is fantastic, and I'm giving you a hard time, but I think it's a great game. So,
thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I will link in the show notes. Joe Hills is in the chat room, and he's the one that turned me on to this and turned me on to contacting you. And so I will put a link in the show notes to some of Joe Hill's playthroughs of Tower of Guns. So
Joe Hills' playthroughs are hilarious. Whenever he puts out a new one, I don't let myself watch it because I have to save it so that me and my wife can watch it together because they're so much fun to watch.
Aw, that's awesome.
They're
But don't
enjoyable.
tell him that because his ego will get even bigger.
I did not think it possible.
His playthroughs are great. They're a lot of fun.
So, Tower of Guns is like very twitchy and very FPS-y. Like in the back of your head is something lurking for your next game that is not that.
I constantly have ideas that are lurking in the back of my head, and I have to shut them up or write them down real quick and then forget about them, because otherwise it will take away my focus. So I'm the kind of person who, if I think about something else, I'll be like, well, let's go build that now. And I completely will abandon something. So I can't let myself think about stuff too much. So just write the idea down and then put it in a cupboard somewhere and come back to it when you're done with Tower of Guns. That's my motto, at least.
How long do you think it's going to take for you to finish the game?
Months, not years.
Okay.
My due date is, my actual official release date is before the new Thief game comes out. And that's because...
Is that so you can play the Thief game?
Yep. I love the Thief series. I really hope the new one is good. And I want to be able to play that without feeling guilty.
Yeah, we had Kent Hudson on last week, and he worked on Thief 3. Was that the one he worked on? Do you remember, Spencer?
Yes.
So,
I don't remember. No.
Like, all of the Thieves had... Like, they all had flaws, but they all had, like, really awesome moments in them, too. So, it's just a good franchise. I'm happy to see it being revived.
Well, cool. Well, okay. I think we'll wind down. I think we've been going about an hour, a little bit over. And I want to try to actually get this up in a reasonable amount of time. But Joe, I am looking forward to seeing what happens with your game. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about your art and games and all that kind of stuff. And I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you very much for having me. If you don't mind, in the show notes, could you put a link to the Greenlight page?
Yes, I'll be happy to.
It desperately needs Greenlight votes, because that's the only way indies like me get on Steam these days, and I've got a long way to go.
Steam is a bunch of bullshit.
Your words, not mine.
I will also, by the way, he has given us some keys for Tower of Guns that we will give away. So if you are enjoying the show and you would like to try out Tower of Guns, why don't you toss us an email? Let us know what you want to see in future episodes. If there are guests you want me to reach out to, as always, just because you want to hear somebody on the show doesn't necessarily mean I can get them to reply to my emails or my tweets or knocking on their window late at night. But I try.
Not as effective as you would think it was.
I know. So yeah, do absolutely toss us an email. I will pick some winners randomly from the people who send in emails, and you too will get to try out the alpha of Tower of Guns, which gets you all the content ever, correct?
It does, and if I am ever on Steam, you will end up with a Steam key. It's just one big list of pre-orders / gifts together. They're all on one list.
Nice.
Yep.
So, Spencer, have a great day.
I'm going to try the HB.
Go for it. HB is my favorite.
It's right here. See?
And Joe, you have a great night. And everyone,
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Best of luck, Joe.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Core Elements, exploring gaming one element at a time. A podcast by the Dead Workers Party. See the show notes and get more information at coreelements.deadworkers.com or leave us a voicemail at 256-812-1010.
Dead Workers Party Network. Feeling your ass until you tell us you like it.